What is up, Pitt fans? Thank you so much for tuning in to Inside the Panthers on YouTube. My name is Stephen Thompson, coming at you with another Inside Pitt practice report. It's Friday morning, so we're looking ahead to the weekend and to a critical matchup between two desperate teams in the Virginia Tech Hokies and the Pitt Panthers. There are a lot of storylines going into this game. A lot of question marks at a bunch of different key positions for both teams, and then there's the question of approach because I think these are two teams that, as much as the fan bases might not want to hear it, are in similar spots as far as this season goes and have some similar styles and some similar characteristics. So just thinking about how they're going to attack each other, it will be pretty interesting. We'll start with the quarterback situation because there are questions on both sides of the for either team. Just like we talked about earlier in the week, the starting quarterback situation for Pitt remains foggy. Pat Narduzzi said he has a starting quarterback in mind, just doesn't want to share who it is yet. A little gamesmanship from him. This, of course, comes, though, 3 days after he said he doesn't think it matters if coaches hide who the starter is. Teams can generally figure it out and make a competent game plan anyway, even if they have to game plan for two guys. So it's interesting that he continues to do this, but, playing it close to the vest because he doesn't have to do it any other way. So you know, I have some kind of itch that some kind of hunch that Phil Dracovic is going to play. I think he'll be fine, and honestly, probably be able to improve a little bit, build upon what Narduzzi said was probably his best game as a Panther, which was that first half against UNC. I thought he looked pretty good. Completed north of 73% of his passes, threw for I believe 110 yards. Didn't turn the ball over. You had to lean on a run game a little bit. He had some help, but I thought he did everything that he was supposed to do and looked pretty good. And if they get that version of Phil Dracovic, I think they win this game running away. But we'll see how it turns out. Hope if not, it'll definitely be Christian Veillere. It will, Nate Yarnell. They say they have a lot of faith in him, but it seems like he is still stuck in that third string spot. But it'll be Dracovic if he's healthy, Veillere if he's not, and then Yarnell will be the last case, be the worst case scenario. With that in mind, let's look at Virginia Tech situation too. That's up in the air as well. Listen to Brent Pry's press conference from earlier this week, and Garrett Wells was their starter at the beginning of the year, and he warmed up prior to, but didn't play against Marshall last week. He did practice this week and looked good, according to Pry, made some nice throws, but Panthers are preparing for Kyron Drones as well as his backup. He played most of that game, all of that game, against Marshall. He's a bit more of a runner. I think a more bigger, explosive athlete, powerful, someone they'll definitely run the ball with more. They still run the ball with Wells as well, but I think they think of Wells as a little bit stronger of a passer, and that's why he won the job coming out of camp. Drones ripped off like a 70-something yard run, some kind of big chunk play, I believe against Marshall. So his legs are really dangerous. So it's something that they'll have to look for as well. And we'll get into the injuries a little bit later. Some of the things we're keeping our eye on, and that could be key considering who the Panthers will be or could be without heading into this game. Next, I want to talk a little bit about, like I said, the approaches, just because I find it a little hard to judge where Pitt is going to go offensively in this one or predict where they're going to go offensively in this one. Defensively, it's pretty obvious. Stop the run and you'll win this game, or you'll hold them to few points. I think that much is obvious. Virginia Tech likes to run the ball. They're not super competent passing the ball, so stop the run and you can really do some damage on that offense. But for Pitt offensively, when they have the ball, I kind of wonder how they're going to attack this one because, on one hand, the Hokies are really not good at defending the run. It's not necessarily a surprise if you remember either last year's game or the 2018 game. 2018 game, I was a freshman at Pitt, and it was one of the best games I've been to, just watching Quadri Allison and Darren Hall, and I believe, even Maurice French was taking end arounds in that game, but I think they ran for maybe 400 yards, something like that. It was a big route. That one was crucial for winning the Coastal that year. 3:30 game. It was that was a good time. That was a good game. Same with the 2022 game where Izzy ran for 320 yards, 6 touchdowns, setting school records left and right. It seems it's not just Pitt that is able to run over Virginia Tech. Last week, Marshall eclipsed 200 yards through 3 quarters, not even 3 quarters. I don't know what their final total was at. Don't have that in front of me, but It was over 200 yards. The Hokies rank 122nd in the country in rushing yards per game. They're 112th in yards per rush, and they're 118th in the country in rushing touchdowns per game. So the Panthers should be able to run right over them, like line up and run right over them if they want. But I think they kind of saw some things developing maybe in the passing game before Phil was knocked out of the UNC game. And if he's back, I could see a kind of a similar approach where they take some early runs, but then moved into a more balanced attack. I don't expect them to fall behind in this game, and if they do, it won't be by much. So, an aerial attack won't be as necessary, I'd say. But I think they're also looking for explosive plays, and I don't think those are going to come from the running game. Even if they're able to rip off some big chunks, like they're not going to gain 30, 40 yards with regularity. Whereas I think there is a chance that they could do that through the air. So they're looking for, Bub Means, Gavin Bartholomew, and even Kenny Johnson, trying to get those guys the ball more. And I think that could not force them, but I think they'll be inclined to maybe look downfield, especially if they can get the running game going early. Virginia Tech's going to be keen on the run, so I wouldn't be shocked for them to try to dial up some looks downfield, less so because they need them to win this game, but more just to get, fill in some kind of rhythm, build some confidence for Bub and Gavin Bartholomew too. I also wouldn't be shocked to see Kenny Johnson, catch some screens, take some handoffs on jet sweeps. He started to do a little bit of that last week, but I think they are really interested in just finding any way to get the ball in his hands. Like, just get him a touch and let him run. And you just, you're playing the odds that a guy that fast can break one. I think you kind of saw that with the move to put him at kick returner. They just know this guy is too explosive to not have the ball in his hands as much as possible, right? So, like, even when there wasn't a spot for him on offense, while he was kind of, I still think I've probably said this before, but getting into the flow of the offense, learning the playbook, things like that. They've stuck him at kick returner just to say, here's an easy way for you to touch the ball, catch it, run forward, go score a touchdown. So I'll be interested to see how they approach this one. Betting man, they rush for over 200 yards and control the clock and get out of there with a comfortable margin. But I would not be shocked to see them, like I said, not necessarily force some deep shots, but give them a look and try to build some confidence in that area, because I think it's something that they might need further down the road if they're going to try to turn this season around. So we'll wrap this up by talking about some non-quarterback injuries on both sides and kind of some situations there. Starting with Pitt, Jake Cradle at center, undisclosed injury, but he didn't play against North Carolina. That's one the Panthers, I think, should be able to survive without. He's obviously a good player, but Terrence Moore was really good, I thought, at center against North Carolina. His coaches thought the same thing. We talked to Dave Borbley this week about it. Pat Narduzzi echoed the same thing. There were some timing issues, but he kind of chalked it up to just first start, new lineup. That kind of thing will get a little bit better and cut down on, I think, the 4 false start penalties that they had against North Carolina. So that's one to watch out for. Bengali Kamara, linebacker, be a big loss. He missed the North Carolina game as well. When you think about trying to stop the run, you think about maybe a mobile quarterback, a guy who can give you help with his legs. That'd be a big loss. You could see it last week. For as much pressure as they put on Drake May, it was containing him that I think was a big problem, and something that they struggled to do. So Kamara can certainly help with that. He's a great athlete, good tackler. He can blitz, but he can also cover and play in space a little bit. So that's one to watch as well. We haven't had any updates on him from Coach Narduzzi, so we'll be looking at game time to see what's up with him. And then Rodney Hammond went down late in the UNC game and didn't return. Narduzzi's comments today made it seem like he'll be full go and ready for a big workload against Virginia Tech, but I've fallen for Narduzzi's misdirections before and probably won't and probably will again. So Hammond, we're watching that. I believe it was a right or left wrist or hand. So we're watching that to see if he will be active for this game, and it could be a big game for him if he's in there. On the other side of things, for Virginia Tech, safety Jalen Jones and left guard Braylon Moore, both questionable as of Wednesday. Jones is an interesting one. Jones, if he can't go, there'll be some shuffling all around the defensive backfield. Mansour Delaney is listed as a starter at cornerback, but he's also listed as a backup behind Jones at safety on the depth chart. So, you take Jones out, then you got to move Mansour over to safety, and that could be interesting. Then you got to elevate another guy up into the starting lineup at corner. And then also receiver Jalen Lane. This guy is second in total yards on the Hokies, and he's tied first in total touchdowns. He's still working his way back from an injury, and he was about 85%, according to Brent Pry last week. So, maybe a little bit closer to full go. This is one of the better playmakers on that team. So how he moves around pregame and even at the beginning of that game will be interesting to see. And, maybe if he's feeling a little bit better, the Hokies start to look downfield a little bit, maybe test this Pitt secondary that, they were they were tested a little bit last week, but they haven't really been tested before. We'll see how that goes. So with that, I'm headed out of here. Thanks for tuning into another Inside Pitt practice report. Make sure to stay tuned with us through the end of this week. We'll come back with another post-game report on Saturday following the Virginia Tech game, breaking down everything that happened there. Make sure to like this video and subscribe to us on YouTube. That's youtube.com/@InsideThePanthers, and find all the reporting from Pitt practices and games at InsideThePanthers.com. Good talking to you all. We'll see you next time.